is really good at one thing. You want someone who can deal with trauma, deal with depression, deal with anxiety, deal with substance use or addictions. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So I think in that way, because you've tried a couple of different things, I don't know that, if someone is looking for a very specialized thing, you may not be the most competitive candidate. But I think there are a couple of really interesting opportunities you have. The first is that you can tell people that, hey, I understand a lot of different aspects of design. So I have experience in multiple different kinds of design. So interestingly enough, there may be some kind of other design, like interior design, for example, that you can say, I understand environmental design. I understand like even the nuts and bolts of like developing support structures for miniatures and things like that, almost like more from an engineering aspect. So I understand a lot of the other pieces. It's not just one thing. The other thing that the other way that you can kind of pitch it is that you can also tell people that you're like a quick learner. So you've learned multiple different things and you've learned how to succeed in all three of these different fields. So if there is something a little bit that's, if there's a new skill or you're working at a startup or there's a new kind of design philosophy or perspective or something like that, then you can sort of say like, I'm really good at picking up new things. My background was in this. I worked in something that was slightly different. I got promoted after 1 year because I did such a good job. I'm very good at learning on the job. I'm very good at providing what a company needs, even if my background, I don't necessarily have experience in it. So I'm very fluid in supporting like whatever the company needs, and I can learn new things and execute on them in a strong way. So that's the kind of thing that like sometimes companies will love. The last advantage that you may actually have is sometimes managers have the background that you have. So like, since you understand different dimensions of design, instead of actually doing the design, if you're managing people who are doing the design and you have kind of a wider experience, that can actually be really good. So if you look at even people like project managers at tech companies and stuff like that, they may work with people who are coders. They may not be the best coders themselves, but they understand different coding projects. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. The thing is, I'm a little bit more to the creativity side. So I actually enjoy doing the things. I don't actually like managing people.
Yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind, right? So just because the best way you can sell yourself may not necessarily be what you enjoy the most. And that's okay. So what that may mean is that you may be able to get higher paying jobs with more of your strengths. But if you don't really enjoy that, then you can lean towards the creative. I still think that generally speaking, you're kind of in a good spot because you've got a couple different kinds of things. And I think a lot of you finding the right job is going to be how persistent you are in looking for it. Right? So I wouldn't, because I think a lot of finding the right job is like just the opportunity. Like, so you've got to kind of network and get to know people and.
Red Bull gives you wings.
My son deserves the finer things in life, like his Old Spice Fiji body wash.
Is that coconut and daydreams?
I wouldn't, spend 5 years at this company and then go looking for something else. Yeah, I presume, if you're not happy with some aspect, then if you're completely happy with it, then that's totally fine.
That's interesting because I grew up used to seeing people working in the same company for their entire lives. So whenever I do work in a company, that's what I kind of strive for. And maybe that's why it was bothering me little bit, the thing that I needed to be good at one thing exactly, because I was afraid I wasn't able to grow in that industry actually.
Yeah, so
now that you mention it, I think about it.
Yeah, so that's understandable because I think, let's say 30 years ago, 20 years ago, people did stay more longitudinally at one company. But I get the sense that that's changing. I'm not an expert on this kind of research, but I think there's some research that shows that people who move jobs every like 2 to 5 years actually like maximize their income. There are some industries in which people move around a lot. There's some industries in which you stay. I think it just depends on the industry, the company, things like that. So I think, you may find a long-term company. The issue is that the long-term company may not be your first company.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So you may have to move around a little bit, and then you'll find a place and you're like, I actually really like these people. I feel like my compensation is pretty good. I feel like my growth at this company is pretty good. And I've worked with a lot of people who are very successful, get compensated very well, who have stayed at a place for a long period of time and will build their entire career at one institution. And that can be very successful too. I think it's just you got to find the right one.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think, I'm optimistic if you're not going to get in your own way in terms of you did a good job of applying for a job that you quote unquote didn't think you could get. And I would continue doing that. So continue exploring, continue believing in yourself, or just taking a chance. And I think you'll probably do well.
Well, I hope so. Well,
Cool. Oh, she disconnected or dropped? Okay.
PC looked like
Huh?
disconnected.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So I think it's cool to hear that, people are trying the stuff that we recommend and it's working out for them. Right. So like we'll say a lot of stuff on stream, like, hey, you should do this and you should do this. And we don't really have great data about the people who do it or don't do it and how it ends up with them. But it's always nice to hear that. And I'd encourage y'all to take Heeji's story to heart that, just, on the one hand, there are jobs that you quote unquote should get or are good on paper for, and those jobs won't hire you because it's an entry level position with 2 years of experience. And on the flip side, there may be jobs that you don't think that you can get, which may actually hire you because of the state of the company or whatever. And so in either case, like, I would just encourage y'all to not work against yourself, right? If you think that you're not going to get a job, don't bother not applying. Like, take a chance from time to time. We're not saying if you're a college graduate and, let's say Facebook is looking for a new CEO, like, I don't think you're going to get that job, but, or Meta, sorry. But at the same time, like, recognize that there are a lot of employers out there who are willing to take a chance on employees that are willing to learn and are willing to grow, et cetera, and, give it a shot. Let's move on.